because that is the aspect of God that is always with you.
Exactly. So you'll find out that as we progress through our program, we will explain the meaning of these male and female symbols and all the other symbols and how they relate to us presently as African people. Brother Keita, thank you for that wisdom.
Black faces, black traces, black races in time. The wind cannot carry black tracks from black minds. Black faces, black traces, black races in time. The wind cannot carry black tracks from black minds. Black tracks in blood cannot be denied. So many have covered the truth.
Khepera with Mama Imani Humphrey, the academic director of Aisha Shule. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Can you describe to us briefly the philosophy of Aisha Shule?
Yes. Aisha Shule, first of all, is a small, independent black school that goes from 2.5 years preschool to 6th grade. And the philosophy is based on the concept that every black child is gifted and or talented. And because of that, people in our community, educators, have the obligation to develop our children and stop throwing them away, develop them to their full potential, to identify their gifts and their talents, and to use that to program them towards strength.
For several years, you taught in the Detroit public school system. What were the factors that caused you to go from being a teacher in the DPS to owning and directing your own school?
I saw a great need that wasn't being met for black students. I was in the middle of my public school career, I guess, when the black student movement developed. And I was a part of that, partly because my children were involved, and partly because the children that I taught were involved, the young people I taught were involved, and partly because my spirit moved me to be a part of that. I was already involved in the civil rights movement and subsequent black power struggles that came about later. So so many things were happening at once, and I got involved in the black independent school movement by having a proxy relationship with some of the freedom schools in the South. Some friends of mine who went south every weekend. We packed books, we packed clothes, we packed canned goods, we packed classroom materials, and we had drivers who went to Mississippi and Alabama and Georgia every weekend. So that was part of it. And then as the student strikes occurred and the teacher strikes occurred, that was an era of unrest for many people, professionals, students, grassroots people, etc. So as teachers went on strike, students went on strike, we identified, a group of people identified the need to provide alternative education, and we started several schools that were Saturday schools, or schools in the basements of churches, schools in people's houses. So there were all kinds of things. We were trying to reach the children then. And they were so successful. They were so successful that it just made me realize that when I did go back into the public school setting, that was not going to be adequate. The structure would not allow what needed to be done. And that if I wanted to do what my conscience led me to do, that I would have to do it outside of school. And then I took a leave from the Detroit Public Schools, and I had the opportunity to work in the Oakland Prep School, which was an alternative high school, sponsored by Oakland University. And it was for young people who were 16 to 21, who had dropped out of school, who had been incarcerated, had an arrest record, a felony record, and had been identified as maybe unredeemable by the system. We had 96 students. 90 of them, I think, were black, 3 Hispanic, and 3 Caucasian. And our task was, like the miller's daughter, to spend gold out of straw by morning. We were to prepare those young people for college in a year's time. Some of them have been out of school for 8 or 9 years. Some of them had dropped out of school when they were 8 years old, 9 years old, 4th grade students. We asked them how could they stay out of school that long, and they survived on the street. They said an attendance officer came along around once or twice and checked on them, and after that nobody ever asked where they were. So they stayed on the streets, and subsequently that's how they became involved in crime. But those young people were so intelligent. Many of them were like Malcolm X. They had almost forgotten how to read and how to think critically. But once we were able to open books to them, open up political systems to them, open up careers to them, they just took off. So we were successful. We got, I think, 50 or 52 of those kids out of there that year and into Oakland University. So that was a small setting, intimate relationship with the children, with the young people. A teacher's dream, really. And it was so exciting and so stimulating that I could not go back after that to the public school system. So there was a group of friends, a collective that I belonged to, and we all had young children then, and we wanted to do something to provide our children with a supplement to what they were getting in public and private schools, and we designed and implemented a Saturday school. And that Saturday school provided the children with in-depth cultural education. Cultural meaning their black history, their African studies, their African dance, anything you could think of that had to do with us culturally. And so people who sent their children, it was for our kids initially, people who sent their children said that this is not enough to do this on Saturday. Why don't you do this full time? Why don't you have a school like this? This is wonderful. And so we did. After 2 years, it took us 2 years to plan the school. That was the Alexander Crummell School. And we opened that school one day with 18 students. The next day we had 36 students, and by the end of the week we had 65 students. And that was in '76. And we operated that school. It was K-8. We operated it until 1980. Then a number of things happened. People whose children had grown up, they moved away. Some went to other cities, other states. Some were no longer interested because their need had been served. Their children were no longer there. I had thought that when we did that, when we decided to have a school, that it was not just for our biological children. I thought that all the people in this collective felt the same way that I did, that the school was going to be an institution, and that it would be for as many children in the African American community that we could serve, and also that we could be a model to other schools, that we could develop materials, a lot of things. But evidently everyone didn't have that understanding or that commitment, and so most of the people had gone that we had started with our original group. We had lost our lease. We were in a Catholic school building then. We had lost our support base, so to speak, and there was a question of whether we could continue. So we closed that year. We reorganized. I reorganized. I could not. I thought maybe I'd do something else at that point, but it was too important to me. So I met with some people. We reorganized the board, and I asked Inamoy Khepera Hill if she would be a partner with me because it was too much work for one person. And she agreed, and we reopened the Shule. I renamed it Aisha Shule. I rephrased the philosophy, which was a culmination of a lot of things that I had learned over the years. And